G'day everyone, this is Dan,
And I'm Christy.
and we are Embrace the Crazy, which is all about what, Christy?
It's all about our lives, managing life with 4 kids, a dog, the 2 businesses, all of our crazy schedules, and having a bit of fun all along the way.
Life. So this is a really interesting topic for us today. It's about digital media today, and we're talking about how we embrace it, how we do it in our family, and how the knowledge and the technology can be power if used in the right way. So we're just going to jump straight into it today. And digital media is really close to us. It's part of our work. It's part of what we do day in, day out. I'm really passionate about it as well. I love technology. I love the fact that it can do so many things. It can really make our lives very different to how they were in the past, more beneficial. And certainly from a work perspective, it's kind of what we do every day and all day. So it's a huge interest for us, but it becomes a bit different when it's about your loved ones and your family. And one of the first things you know when you have kids is screens are like this complete attraction, aren't they? They're like this addiction, which it occurs for adults too, but with kids, it's next level, isn't it?
It is. It's like a drug for them. They just got to get their screen fix every day, and it can become very overwhelming and scary when you think about all of the things that they can connect with online in the big wide world of digital media, the things that they're being exposed to, and it can be quite overwhelming.
Without a doubt, but at the same time, there are so many benefits and advantages, and it is here. I think the big thing that you've got to be very well aware of is technology is our lives. It's not changing. It's not manageable, controllable. You really got to make sure that, although you can put great parameters around it, and we're going to talk about all of those things, technology is coming, it's here, and it's going to keep building. And that's what I mean by controllable. We're not going to control that it's stopping it from coming. It's here, it's in our lives, it's going to be in our kids' lives way more than what it was for us.
Definitely.
So we've got to embrace it. We've got to be part of it. But at the same time, we've got to think carefully about it and nurture the process of embracing it, don't we?
Yeah, and I think for you, it's probably one of those things that's new, it's exciting. You know, everything that's new that comes out, you're like, oh, this is amazing. Let's look at this. Let's do this, and you like change. You like new things. You're all over digital media. Whereas some people, they aren't. They find it quite scary. They find it quite overwhelming. And they don't want it. They don't want any part of it, and which is fine as well. Whereas you're very much let's dive headfirst into it, and I think that's probably your personality more than anything.
So let's talk a little bit about how we do it in our family. I think that's the first starting point to give you context for why we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So who's got digital media in our family?
Everybody.
They do. They do.
Everybody has access to it. Yeah.
So we've got laptops, we've got iPads, and then Chrissy and I have phones.
Yep.
So we haven't delved yet into our kids having phones, but we're on the cusp of it.
It's coming.
It's really approaching faster than what we thought.
Yeah.
And so hence why we wanted to talk a little bit about this, because it's very much at the top of our minds at the moment, given we're going through this experience at the moment. So I think the first thing that stands out to me when I think about kids and digital media is that everyone is moving at different paces. So you'll see some families where their kids have phones really early, or they're using iPads to entertain them. And everyone has these different views of how it works and how to best use it, when it can be used, how much it can be used, and all those things. And really that's personal. You know, I think that's very much up to every family. So I think we wanted to start there because this is not a judgment on anyone else. And there are so many different ways to do this. But we wanted to talk about how we do it, because I think the whole point of what we talk about is how we do our family. Sometimes that'll resonate really closely with you. Sometimes you'll just disagree with it, and sometimes it's totally wrong. So let's talk a little bit about some of the practices that we have in our family.
So when our eldest was 10, he decided he wanted to save up to buy an iPad. And you probably listened to us before. If you haven't, we talk a lot about finances and kids being independent, and we'll do some more about savings and things like that. But where we encouraged him, okay, if you can get to halfway, we'll put in the other half. So, giving him a goal that he had to save some money, work for some money, that kind of thing. And he at their school, they have a document they need to sign at the beginning of every year, which has the rules around use of devices at school. So we implemented the same thing at home. I thought that was a really, really good thing for him to have that autonomy and him to have that ability to say what rules he wanted. So he came up with some really great rules. So he wrote down that it was only for 30 minutes a day. He was only allowed to access it 30 minutes a day. It wasn't allowed to be in the bedroom, and it wasn't allowed to be overnight, or he wasn't allowed to have it anywhere near where he's sleeping. And if he saw something that he didn't understand, or he didn't know what it was, or if he felt funny, he would come and tell us about it. I think that was the main rules. And we all signed it. So Dan and myself signed it, and he signed it as well. And, over the last 2 years, those rules have become slightly bendable, and he often has more than 30 minutes a day. And likewise, our second did the same thing. So they both have their iPads, which we put in money for as well. But it's interesting because that was 2 years ago that our eldest bought that, and it's almost outdated now.
Yeah, I think maybe the big question in your mind is, why do they need it?
Well, yeah, that's right.
Why do they need it? And I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why I was really supportive of it. I love the fact that they have the ability to be able to go onto the internet and search for things they want to know. I love that fact that they're getting out their version of the encyclopedia today and can find out any information that they want, particularly when we're having conversations. I can say, go and have a search there. Go and check that out. They can listen to music. So if they say, hey, I want to create my own music, or I want to listen to some music, they're able to do that. They can create videos and take videos. So many cool things that they can do with an iPad or some type of handheld product. That's really exciting for them to do that. Not only that, I wanted them to be really familiar. I want them to really understand it and get it. It's how they will engage, communicate. It's how they're going to work. So I really wanted them to be really familiar. So there were quite a lot of upsides. But at the same time, as Christy was just talking about, we tried to create some perimeters or barriers to make sure that it was being used in the right ways.
Definitely.
And now I think over time, as our kids have got older, they've been trusted enough to be able to do more.
Yeah.
And look, I'm sure there's things that they're probably looking at. I know they look at YouTube lots and many other video channels, and it's probably somewhat less informative and more entertainment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the ups outcast the lowers, don't they?
Definitely. Yeah, you've got to look at the balancing it out. It is enjoyment. And you look at us. We sit down in front of Netflix and watch a movie, or we grab our phones out and we scroll and we search up things that we're interested in, and they see that. So we can't expect us to have hard and fast rules. No, you're not allowed to have your device today. Whereas they're actually getting old enough to say, well, Mum, you're on your phone. You're on your phone just before I saw you on your phone. Why can't I do it?
All the time.
Oh, sorry, I'm just organising our lives. They're able to see that push and pull as well. So there has to be some give and take. But I think it's important to set up those rules.
Yeah.
Before devices get introduced, and I would imagine when our eldest gets a phone, probably sooner rather than later, there will be rules around that as well, that will have very strong rules. And maybe we need to start, maybe that'll be a conversation of implementing rules for our phones. After we get home from work or after we get home from school, they go in a box and don't come back out. We charge them overnight, whatever. So there's certain things that we can implement to be a good role model for our kids.
Look, I agree. And let's change tact a little bit around the type of media. So we talked a lot about iPads and computers. We haven't talked about gaming.
Yeah.
Gaming is massive.
Huge.
And we had this conundrum a few years ago because our kids were asking us, hey, I want to get this console, this console, this console, of which Christy and I are not really gamers. So
No,
for
not at
us, it's never been a big thing. You know, when we were growing up, we had I'm not even going to say what they were because it's pretty, it'll show you how old I am. But we had the first of some of those consoles that were usually either second hand or behind the dates of when things were released. But we did have some of those and loved those.
Yeah.
But our kids were very relentless. And in the end, it was a pretty easy decision because I thought it would be great to get one of those where we could play together and have fun.
Yes.
And importantly, which wasn't around when we were growing up, but the game consoles are so much more than just an interaction with the screen and a challenge
Definitely.
of the game. It's actually engaging with your friends and playing with your friends, and it's part of a community. And I didn't want them to miss out on that. And it probably sounds like I'm just going with the flow. Christy, am I? Were we selling out?
Look, I think we held out quite a fair way. And it's interesting because we made the decision during COVID, didn't we? During the first COVID lockdown that we were going to buy a console for the kids. And we integrate, and it's interesting because, you know, when we were doing learning from home, I very much took on the responsibility of doing that. And we integrated it into our day, didn't we? We would have movement breaks and we'd play you know, a dancing game on the screen, or we'd play, you know, we'd set aside times to play those, you know, soccer games. I don't want to name any games, Dan. You've made me a bit nervous. So we integrated it, and it kind of made me feel a little bit better about it. We always knew, I think I always knew deep inside that it was going to happen, and I'm not sure that we relented or we gave in. And now we have it. They probably use it less than we thought they would.
Without a doubt. That was the first thing I was going to say, is that so we don't use it on the weekdays. I think that's the first thing that we have, which I think makes life much easier.
Definitely.
So it's a treat for the weekend where we can do it together.
Yep.
It's less a solo game activity, although some of our kids do like that. It is much more of a group activity. And I can tell you that, you know, now I reckon I might play once a month with the kids. I will see them playing on the weekends and they will enjoy it, but it's not a huge regularity for us. In saying that, though, I think in addition to the console games, computer games are pretty regular in our house, aren't they? So if I look at the iPad or the laptop, I think they are playing just online games pretty regularly, which I'm not a real fan of, to be honest, but it's something that they do and really enjoy.
Yeah.
So part of those boundaries you were talking about before is, you know, we use those boundaries to help really create some clear kind of timelines and behind it.
And they're very much aware. The kids are very much aware of, okay, so once they've done all their jobs, so there's certain things that need to happen in our house, and then once all those things are done, and we've got a little bit of time before I serve dinner, that's generally the time they play, or they get on their device, or they watch TV, or they play some games, or they, you know, play on the gaming console. It's usually for those last, you know, 30 minutes prior to dinner, once everything's done, or if I'm just doing something quickly, they have that little bit of screen time. And it is very highly regulated. We definitely don't let them play after or go on any devices after dinner, unless we're listening to music and having a dance party. But other than that,
every night.
Yeah, pretty much. And going back to just flipping a bit, going back to what you were saying about music and songs, and so each of our kids has a playlist on Spotify, which we've put into our family sharing account. And again, they've got rules. They can't have explicit songs. We put on the explicit content barrier. So, and all of those things. So they absolutely love it. I'll put my playlist on, especially when we're in the car. Can we listen to my playlist? Oh, I'd like to listen to a song. So it's not just about sitting in front of a screen. It's about giving them another kind of experience. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy listening to the kids' music because it gives me a bit of an insight.
And I know when they first had them and they were learning them, so I'd just do fun games with them. So I'd say, hey, here are 20 questions. They're hard. Go on the internet and tell me what the answers are, and just use it as a tool to actually help them learn how to use it. but also get answers, help them with those kind of life challenges that you have and they'll learn at school and other places, but just help reinforce those. So I think there's some really great benefits there. I really love the rule about not in the bedrooms. I think for me, that's a first rule that we have, and then managing the timeframes is also another one. I know of a couple of colleagues who manage their internet, so it only has particular times when people can access the internet in their house, which means playing games and things like that. So I really like that idea as well. We don't implement that here, but we're pretty close to it and we're pretty visible. I'm sure that'll come into play shortly. What we haven't talked about yet is the communication between friends, because we're not as much up to that at the moment. But what's your thoughts on that, Christy?
Good question, Dan. You kind of threw that one at me. In terms of, can you give me an example?
So between messaging between friends and that communication that happens and Snapchatting and all those messages. Now, we're fortunate we haven't exactly got there, but we know that some of the kids in our in the friendship groups are and have been part of that. And I think they've had mixed success with that. There's been some challenges, which I think we've all heard of stories like that. So for me, I think how we're going to handle that, and it's great to talk about these things because we can really work through it as we start to think about them more. But the way that I think we're going to handle that is to really talk about what can be shared and what can't be shared.
Yes, that's okay, now I get what you mean, KK.
Yeah, but I think it's really important, right? When we talk about digital technology, everything gets mixed together. So the way that they communicate, the way that they share, the way that they engage on there, you know, they don't see a separation like what we do.
Yeah,
because we've seen another life.
Yeah.
They don't have that. So I think being really clear on what's shareable and what's not, what you comment on and what's not. But I was talking to a colleague about this the other day, and the big thing that stood out to me is that the behaviors that you want your kids to show and display when at school or when with their friends or in our family are the same behaviors you want to see online.
Definitely.
And for me, that's the biggest thing that we want to really be calling out, is making sure that the behaviors don't change because you're behind a screen or because someone doesn't know you. It is the exact same behaviors and even more than what you do with a person when you're engaging with them or with your parents or your friends or whoever it may be. It sounds so simple, but to me, that is the absolute cornerstone of how you want to be talking about technology, because we don't want to hide behind technology and say it's technology's fault. It's not.
No.
It's not that at all. It's about the framework that we've set up for it.
Yeah.
It's about the expectations that we've put behind it.
Yep.
And it's about how we manage it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't set and forget. You know, if your kids are having trouble in the playground or they're having trouble online, you're going to go through the same process and the same solutions. So for me, that is really about talking about the behaviors and building the right confidence. I think one of the hard things particularly around social media, is that people like to comment, provide feedback, like, dislike, or do nothing. And I think that's hard for kids, because it's almost like how it was in the playground, where do I have lots of friends and do they like what I say or not? And it can really affect their feelings.
Yes.
So I think that's a really big challenge that we're going to have to help with, because not everyone likes you. And some people are going to say bad things about you. They'll do that online, or they'll do that in the playground or around the sports field or wherever. So how you interact with that, how you deal with that, I really feel the same response should apply above all.
Yeah, true. Yeah, definitely. That's very true, Dan.
Yeah.
Look, I suppose I also wanted to touch on one thing that we haven't talked about yet, and that was how we protect our kids online. So we talked about boundaries and rules, but there's also, I actually went along, I'm not sure if Dan has been to one. There's a course that they run through school. It's actually funded by Microsoft, I believe, that talks about e-safety for children. And, you know, if you have that availability at your school, or talk to your school about it, because I really learned a lot from that, and just about how to set things up to make your child safe online, because we all know the flip side of all the fun things that you can do online is all the bad stuff that comes with exposing yourself online and exposing your children to that. So I think there's lots of things we need to be aware of, but I also don't think you need to be completely scared and afraid of allowing your kids to be online, because as you said, Dan, they even have access to at school, devices at school. So I think we do need to embrace it, but we also need to be knowledgeable and be able to use all the tools that are available to us to keep our children safe online. So we're having those conversations, as you said, with social media, particularly what's shareable, what's not, what's safe and what's not. Things that if we don't feel that this is right, it's probably not right, come and get a parent or come and talk to an adult about it. Or if something doesn't quite strike you as the right thing to be seeing or doing when you're online, come and speak to somebody about it. It might not be us if they don't feel as though they can talk to us about it, but having some other trusted adults that they can, and it goes back to all types of safety, but particularly that e-safety and that online safety. It's really, really important to be knowledgeable as parents about the things that you can do to protect your children, but also to educate your children about things that they might see or that might come up. And having that open conversation, that open dialogue all the time. Whenever our kids leave our house, I always say to them, be kind. So also if when you're online, be kind. And once they start opening up those communication channels and they have their own phones and social media and things like that, that'll be another message that I always impart to them. Just be kind. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. And if we can show kindness, whether it's online or in person, we're going to have a better outcome.
We haven't even talked about the metaverse, Christy.
Oh my gosh.
Let's not get too far away. So look, I did buy a Facebook. I don't even know what it is. What's it called? It's a Facebook 3D virtual reality, just to check it out from a work perspective. And the kids, of course, were absolutely mesmerized by it, although you're not supposed to have it for kids under 12. So they've only had a quick look at it to see what it's like. Look, there's an incredible world out there. I think it's something that we are, albeit embracing, still very mindful of. And, I think it's always been a worry on my mind. It's always something I'm mindful of because it's not a controlling factor. When they're in the playground or they're with their mates or at sport, you've got some controls around it. The parents and things like that. When you're out with technology, it is really challenging and tricky. But this is like one of those challenges as being a parent. You got to kind of let your child go sometimes and see how they go and test it out. And that's the scariest thing in the world, to be honest. It really is. But that's part of your job as a parent is, sometimes to be there, sometimes to support, sometimes to help manage. And you never get it right normally in their eyes until a long way later. But I think, look, for us, we embrace it.
We do.
We put it at the forefront of our family. It's part of our world. It's not the be-all and center of our world, but it is part of how we work and how we interact and how we engage. We do talk about it lots with our kids. We are hard on when it gets used and when it's not. And we are strict about some of those processes. Are we or not?
Oh, definitely. I am. You may not see it, but there's definite rules around things, and we're hard because I don't want that to be their whole life. But also, can I just chime in here? I know you're wrapping up, but I just want to chime in and say one thing: we can learn from our kids as well. So our eldest, I was trying to share something with him the other day. He's like, Mum, just put it in a Google Doc and share it with me via my email address. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Those things.
So they're the signs when you know that you're actually becoming old.
I am so old.
Someone young is telling you how to use technology better than you. And yes, I was actually going to talk about that. I think you actually got to get in there.
Episode.
No, but you got to get yourself in there and you got to know what's going on. You got to know what TikTok is. You got to know what Snapchat is. You got to actually know a little bit of how they work. And I'm not saying you're going to do it or live it, and we're probably not going to be obsessed like many others, particularly the younger generation and our kids. But at the same time, you've really got to have a little bit of knowledge so you know how they work and what they are.
Definitely.
But you're exactly right. I think this is not a one way up. This is very much they're actually going to know more than us. And so we've got to be together. And yes, I always get alarmed when I think, oh, just show me how you do this or show me what you do. And I think, oh my gosh, I'm becoming my parents.
Yeah, so it is a two-way street, and I think it's important to open ourselves up and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Actually, can you help me, guys? Because I don't actually know, and that's okay. And it's nice to have someone leading the way that isn't me sometimes, or you.
Absolutely.
So
I'm sure you've got lots of great ideas out there too. So let us know
yeah,
if you've got good ideas, you want to share things that you do. We'd really love to hear about those. We're loving the feedback. Don't forget to follow us so that you know when the latest updates come out. Really, thanks for all your support, and hope it's being helpful, and hope it's creating different ideas and getting you thinking. And please return the favor. Let us know. Give us ideas. Happy to keep chatting about more and more. Embrace the crazy. Have a great afternoon. See you all.
cheers, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.